Hello, dear friends. In quotes, hear, my God, what I say, that I don't want this life, that I die because I don't die. Absent from you, what life can I have but to suffer the greatest death I have ever seen? I am sorry for myself, for I persevere in such a way that I die because I don't die. Said Saint John of the Cross, San Juan de la Cruz. And we are nothing without connection to the source of the I am God. Opinion piece. No one is listening to the trumpet. The prophet Amos is topical. Amos condemned the corruption of the elites. Some say, I can't take it anymore. The more truth, the more responsibility. Geomagnetic storm warning today, Monday the 11th. 1,000 private jets take elite to Davos forum. Europe needs to diversify its energy supply. Empty shelves in UK supermarkets. Central banks worried about inflation. Stock market survived scary week. Dollar hits 2.5-year high against the yen. Global tax deal aims to end tax havens. Bank of England poised for a rate hike. China's energy crisis may affect global economy. The trumpet sounds, but no one listens. All of the Old Testament prophets, Amos speaks most clearly of our times. The prophecy he offers focuses on our generation, as if it had been plucked from today's headlines. In fact, Amos' message is a dual prophecy. It was also intended for mankind at this moment in our time. The same warning trumpet is sounding again today, but very few people hear it. Or better said, listen it. There is a divine law that is repeated throughout the scriptures. It says, in essence, the greater the measure of grace poured out upon a people, the greater will be the judgment upon that people, if divine grace is despised. If a people have been given much truth, they are more responsible, and if they corrupt that truth, their judgment will be doubled. He who carries the burden. Amos, meaning burden, the burden bearer, was one of the 12 Hebrew prophets known as the minor prophets. He was a shepherd and big farmer in Tekoa, on the edge of the wilderness of Judah. He was a prophet in Israel and the northern kingdom during the reign of Jeroboam II, 783 before Christ to 743 before Christ. The book of the Bible that bears his name, the book of Amos, is attributed to him. Amos condemned the corruption of the elites, social injustice and radicalism alien to the commitment of life, announcing the end of Israel. Accused by the priest Amaziah of conspiring against the king, he was expelled from the temple of Bethel. According to the apocryphal Life of the Prophets, he was wounded in the head by a son of Amaziah, as a result of which he died on reaching his homeland. False prophets. In Africa, crowds are coming from all over the world to hear a man who claims that God gave him prophecies in his mother's womb. Westerners are traveling by the hundreds to receive a personal prophecy from this man. In one Balkan state, a prophetess claims to take people through journeys to hell. The woman used to be a witch and says he was once in the hell. She instructs people to lie down on the ground and free their mind as she guides them on an imaginary journey through what she experienced. People are flocking to her for the experience. In Brazil, an evangelist promises to cure cancer in people for $1,000. He also performs exorcisms for a fee. He was developed a large following and is getting rich from his claims. The Great Apostasy. Before the Antichrist is revealed, there will be a mystery of chaos already in action. The coming one will appear after an apostasy. Satan and all the powers of darkness will be setting the stage, destroying the faith of many. Because sin will be more rampant, the love of many of God's people will grow very cold. There will be shipwrecked believers everywhere. All the prophets foresaw this last great apostasy. Isaiah received a message that deals specifically with our day. He foretold what is happening right now. He warned of a later day people who would return to Egypt for help and who would reject the Lord as their source of supply. Text from Isaiah, in quotes, "Now go, write it before them on a tablet, and write it in a book, that it may be for the time to come forever and ever." The literal translation is, "that it may be for the generations to come, for the last days." This is not a message of doom and gloom for the overcomers. Those who fully trust in the Lord will rejoice, for our day of the redemption is at hand. Geomagnetic storm warning. NOAA meteorologists have confirmed that it will likely arrive on October 11th. A direct hit from this cloud could cause a geomagnetic storm. The impact could trigger G1 to G2 class geomagnetic storms. If a moderately strong G2 storm materializes, skywatchers in the US could see auroras as far south as a line connecting New York to Oregon. This is not the Carrington event. Likely, storm levels will reach only G1 or G2 on a scale ranging up to G5. Satellites and power grids will survive with this, while auroras will dance harmlessly in a high latitude skies. This could be the first coronal mass frontal strike of the young solar cycle 25. On October 9th, a solar flare spewed a coronal mass ejection toward Earth. This is called a CME halo, because those that head directly toward Earth appear to from a 360-degree halo around the Sun. Coronal mass ejections hitting directly away from Earth can also form a halo, but that's another story. So far this year, dozens of CMEs have bypassed Earth. Many of them came close to missing and caused no more than minor geomagnetic discomfort in their wake. This time, however, the Sun is shooting straight through. Economy. Central bankers are worried about signs that inflation will persist for longer. Many central banks are beginning to withdraw the emergency stimulus they introduced to fend off last year's recession. With inflation accelerating, the Federal Reserve is poised to slow its asset purchase program. while peers in Norway, Brazil, Mexico, South Korea, and New Zealand are among those that have already raised interest rates. Behind the shift are signs that the recent inflation scare will not soon fade amid supply chain tensions, rising commodity prices, post-closing demand, continued stimulus, and labor shortages. Complicating the task for policy makers, growth may be slowing. That puts central bankers in a bind as they debate which risk to prioritize. Targeting inflation with tighter monetary policy increases pressure on economies, but trying to boost demand may send prices soaring even higher. Bank stocks are too hot. Banking stocks have been one of the best trades of 2021, and with third quarter earnings scheduled to begin Wednesday, analysts expect the industry to show continued strength. The question for stocks, however, is how hot is too hot? That's the question. Dollar rises 2.5-year high versus yen. The dollar rose 2.5-year high against the yen on Monday after a low payrolls number failed to alter market expectations that the Fed will announce it will begin tapering its massive bond buying next month. The economy created the fewest jobs in 9 months in September, with non-farm payrolls rising 194,000, well below economists' forecast of 500,000. Global tax deal seeks to end tax havens. Nations agree to 15% minimum corporate tax rate. A group of 136 countries on Friday set a minimum global tax rate of 15% for large corporations and sought to make it harder for them to avoid taxes in a landmark agreement. 1,000 private jets fly global elite to Davos Forum. More than 1,000 private jets and helicopters are expected to fly Switzerland next week as business leaders join presidents and prime ministers at the World Economic Forum. Bankers, advisors, lobbyists, and journalists flock to the meeting in Davos Energy in January. I wonder how much oxygen is consumed by 1,000 private jets of those who advocate emissions reductions. The stock market survived a scary week. The stock market survived the debt ceiling fight and the oil price spike last week. Can it survive earnings season? The week started with everything falling apart. Energy prices soared and the US appeared to be on the verge of default. Bank of England braced for early rate hike. Bank of England policy maker Michael Saunders told households to prepare for significantly earlier interest rate rises as inflationary pressure builds in the British economy, the Telegraph newspaper said Saturday. Cryptocurrencies. Nearly 90% of Bitcoin has been mined. Bitcoin, the world's largest cryptocurrency, has a limited supply of 21 million coins, with nearly 90% already mined. Analysts are now speculating what will happen to the crypto economy when no new coins are issued. El Salvador to use Bitcoin profits to fund veterinary hospital. El Salvador will invest part of the $4 million profit it has made from its Bitcoin operations to build a veterinary hospital, President Nayib Bukele said Saturday. Energy crisis. Europe needs to diversify its energy supply. Both Europe and the US are facing their own set of challenges, more skewed towards the tight natural gas market and rising world oil prices. The UK is not alone, but is arguably the most exposed to Europe's dependence on imported natural gas, especially from Russia. But the surprise announcement by Vladimir Putin saying Russia was prepared to increase supplies to stabilize prices triggered a sharp sell-off, sending the price down. Electricity returned to Lebanon after 24-hour blackout. Power has been restored in Lebanon, officials say, after a 24-hour supply outage. The Ministry of Energy says the central bank has granted it $1,000 million in credit to buy fuel and keep its power plants running. The power grid was shut down, and officials said it was unlikely to restart for several days. The country's two largest power plants had shut down for lack of fuel. India is on the brink of an unprecedented energy crisis. More than half of the country's 135 coal-fired power plants are running on fumes, and as coal stocks are critically low. In a country where 70% of electricity is generated by coal, this is a major cause for concern as it threatens to derail India's subsequent economic recovery. Supplies. Supply chain crisis. Boris Johnson has appointed former Tesco chief executive Sir David Lewis to advise him on how to solve the supply chain crisis that has led to shortages of gasoline and other supplies. Shelves emptied across the UK as Britons rushed to panic buy before Christmas. Britain's supply crisis has worsened as deep concerns over supply chain problems, soaring energy bills and staff shortages led millions of locals to stockpile holiday essentials before Christmas, leaving shelves empty. Largest food supplier ceases business for 90 days. Mega supplier of storable food Auganson Farms has ceased operations for 90 days, citing global shortages of raw materials and substantial delays in procurement and production, citing supply chain collapse. Auganson Farms has been a large-scale retailer on Amazon, Walmart, and many other outlets. People will have to get used to higher food prices, said the head of Kraft Heinz. Miguel Patricio said the international food giant, which makes tomato sauce and baked beans, was raising prices in several countries. Unlike previous years, he said inflation was widespread. The cost of ingredients such as grains and oils has raised global food prices to a 10-year high, according to the FAO. China. China's energy crisis could affect the global economy. China's ongoing energy crisis could pose a risk to the country's economic growth and affect the global supply chain. The energy shortage in the Asian country has reached a scale not seen in more than a decade, notes the Wall Street Journal. The problem, initially local, could have an impact on the global economy, the newspaper said. China orders big boost in coal production to avert power shortages. Beijing has ordered an immediate expansion of coal production in Inner Mongolia by nearly 100 million tons. This comes amid the global energy crisis and a coal shortage in the country. China eyes Kazakh coal as energy demand rises. China is the world's largest coal consumer. Neighboring Kazakhstan sits on some of the world's largest coal reserves. However, they have never done much business trading the stuff, largely because it's expensive to move by train. That may be about to change. China wants to control the internet more. China will continue to rein in the behaviors of internet platform companies. Under strengthened data security, Central Bank Governor Yi Gang said, Taiwan rejects China's talk of reunification. Taiwan will not be forced to bow to China, the president said. Taiwan will continue to strengthen its defenses to ensure that no one can force them to accept the path China has laid out, which offers neither freedom nor democracy. President Tsai Ing-wen said Sunday in a response to Beijing. Other countries. Italian police arrest political party leaders. Italian police said Sunday they had arrested 12 people, including political party leaders, after clashes in Rome, a day earlier over a government campaign to impose a pass on all workers. Australia wants to censor social networks. The Australian government is considering a series of measures that would make social networking companies more accountable for material posted on their platforms, Communications Prime Minister Paul Fletcher said Sunday. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.